And the on button is going.
Okay, why don't you start us off by telling us a little about the initiative that you've been looking at on your campus?
So at Cerritos College, what we're trying to do is establish something we're calling a Student Success Center, modeled after what they have done over at Chaffey College. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you are. So we have already a Learning Resource Center, and actually when it was built with the idea that we would have coordinated, somewhat centralized learning assistance in all forms, tutoring, workshops, supplemental instruction, a lot of professional development kinds of things there. And soon after the building was completed, the divisions, came and claimed their turf, and we have a math learning center and a writing center, and they all belong, everybody has a piece of it, but it's not coordinated, and consequently students find it difficult to navigate the facility. Each area has different procedures, so it's just not working. So we have in our DevEd plan taken care of all the easy stuff, and this is one project that remains that's hard because we're talking about territory. So that's where we're at.
So, perfect scenario, what would it look like? What would you like to see to make it more centralized?
Like to see it come under one umbrella, being managed by someone who's relatively neutral, and would perhaps look at how the space is currently used to see if there are more productive ways to use it, more sharing of areas that would be reasonable insofar as what the students need. So that a student who, say, needs writing, who may also need reading, they don't have to go from one floor to the next. It's more student focused. It's more in the eyes of the student what makes sense, rather than what makes sense from our structures.
Right.
So that's.
We think of those as being integrated, and so it does
Yes.
make sense that you would somehow want to integrate them for the students to encourage that point of view. And what about the, like you said, there's different procedures that for each one. How do you see that becoming more streamlined?
Yeah, I think in terms of documentation, we don't have, or what we have is not right. It doesn't function well. So I'm hoping that we'll either develop a system, or there's a system that exists that will help us document student use, document students, not just their foot traffic, but what it is that they're doing, actually having some method of linking that to outcomes, linking it back to the class for which they were getting that service, having perhaps a poll or a survey where the student can actually give feedback about how well the service was received. I'd also like to see some tracking to the students' assignments from the instructor.
Oh, that would be
so
nice.
that the instructor doesn't feel out of the loop, but can make use out of what is going on over there too. Actually, like Chaffey does, create assignments that the student can complete over in that facility.
And as far as the integrating it and having it all together, how is that going to improve or change the data collection so that you, or maybe I should ask, how do you view the data collection you currently have with the systems that are in place?
Well, I don't think we have much of a system in place.
Okay.
I think each area might have like a sign-in sheet, but when we have asked them in preparation for, making a plan to give us some of the utilization numbers, they don't have them. And so I think a system that could be shared and uniform across areas would be really, really useful. And if those areas talk to one another so that we get a sense of what students really do. Do they primarily only use writing, or do they use writing and reading, or is it writing and ESL? What is it that they're doing so that we can adjust what we do according to what
Meeting
they
the real
need.
needs instead of what we think the needs are.
Right. And I'm thinking that having a more streamlined documentation or method of seeing what students really do, we can evaluate it better, and we can adjust our resources to meet their needs, which neither one of those two things I think is happening now.
Okay. So it sounds like sustainability going to be in question if you don't get data in the
That's right.
current climate. So
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing a lot of here, is that in order to continue some of the great ideas, we need to wrap assessment around them so that we can know whether they're working, tweak them if they're not, continue them, elaborate, expand if they are. And the only way we really can do that is if we have data.
And so bringing in the same comment that kind of is a theme here, the idea of bringing in a student group and getting student feedback. Have you started getting some of that kind of material collected?
We do have some of that. We have a Title V grant, and there's a heavy student element to it. So we do have very active, a cohort of students. We're also actively getting like video clips of students talking about what makes them successful. And I'm thinking that those individuals have already kind of bought in, and perhaps they can help us, be that voice. There's a number of them, to be that voice on what would cause students to make use of the centers, what kinds of services, what sort of atmosphere needs to be present, all the things that we've forgotten. And we want to get back to that.
Any other last comments or?
It's exciting. It's a big challenge, and I think it is one of the transformative moments for our institution. There's a lot riding on whether we can do this successfully. Like any college, we have a group of early adopters that are all gung ho. We know that this will work. We've seen it. We know it'll work. But we also have maybe an equal number of faculty that are disengaged, that know students need assistance, but really, for whatever reason, are not in there working to make it happen. We have a new president, so it's just a kind of a sense of what is our organization climate willing to go with, and it can either go really well, or it can be, for those that are the naysayers, another thing that we tried and didn't work.
So it sounds like you're dealing more with institutional barriers than necessarily student engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely it. We've actually got, when we put our mind to it, we've got really great student engagement. I mean, we've got one of the largest student activities programs going. We've got a flourishing learning communities program. We've got a really great transfer center, and if you build it, the students in our district will really take advantage of it. Our population is largely disadvantaged, underrepresented, a lot of ESL students, a lot of first-generation students, and they really like our college. And so it's more, we're the enemy of our so we need to get that over.
All right, sounds good.